How to organize your paper. The three main sections of a typical college paper are the introduction, body, and conclusion. How long each section is and what they contain depends on a few things. The topic of the paper and the class you're writing it for will play a role. A paper on Hamlet, for example, will be organized a little differently than a paper analyzing the results of a political election. Additionally, any rules or guidelines provided by your professor, such as a minimum or maximum page limit, number of secondary sources to cite, and so on, will also play a role in determining how you flesh out this basic skeleton of an intro, body, and conclusion. Let's take a look now at each section individually and discuss them a little more in depth. The introduction is the very first part of any paper. This is where you announce the topic, provide some general background information, including the author or director, if it's a book or a film, some major elements and themes, and, lastly, state your thesis. Depending on the parameters of the assignment, the introduction could be a paragraph, or a couple pages, or anywhere in between. For example, if you have to write a 3 to 4 page response paper to a reading, you're probably going to just stick to a paragraph. But if you're writing a 20+ page senior seminar paper, your intro could be a page or two long. The body of your paper, whether it's a short paper or a long one, makes up the majority of your word count. This is where you discuss your topic in more detail. You make the argument stated in your thesis, provide supporting evidence from primary and secondary sources, analyze all this information, and express and defend your opinions. The length of the body of your paper depends on a couple of different things. If your professor assigns a brief reflection paper on a reading, the body will be shorter than it will be for a final research paper. The level of the class matters too. Usually a final paper for a 100 level class is a little shorter than it is for a 400 level class in the same department. The number of outside sources your professor wants you to use will also affect the length of your paper, as will any other specific guidelines the professor provides. The conclusion of a paper is generally fairly brief, at least in comparison to the other two sections. For many undergraduate papers, it'll probably just be a paragraph. You'll want to summarize your main points and try to make a connection to something outside the topic of your paper. For example, if your paper is on a Greek tragedy, make a Shakespeare reference in your conclusion. Lastly, you'll want to end with one really good, strong final sentence that pulls everything together. For more information and further guidance, click the link below.